Endgame's converged endpoint security platform is transforming security programs, their people, processes, and technology with the most powerful endpoint protection and simplest user experience, ensuring analysts of any skill level can stop targeted attacks before information theft. Endgame unifies prevention, detection, and threat hunting to stop known and unknown attacker behaviors at scale with a single agent. For more information, visit endgame.com. Domain tools help security analysts turn threat data into threat intelligence. They take indicators from your network, including domains and IP addresses, and connect them with nearly every active domain on the internet. Those connections drive risk assessments, help profile attackers, guide online fraud investigations, and map cyber activity to attacker infrastructure. Fortune 1000 companies, global government agencies, and leading security solutions vendors use the Domain Tools platform as a critical ingredient in their threat investigations and proactive defenses. For more information, visit securityweekly.com/domain tools. Welcome back, everyone, to Paul's Security Weekly. A couple of quick announcements from our sponsors. Visit recordedfuture.com/security weekly. That's right, they've got the daily, daily threat insights delivered to your inbox. It's really good. The feedback has been really good so far.
Nice.
Like I said, if you're a SOC analyst or security analyst looking for indicators of compromise every day, probably something you should subscribe to.
Nothing like dailies in your inbox.
That's right. Active countermeasures, securityweekly.com/ACM. That's right, the Active Countermeasures AI Hunter, something that John Strand, myself, and others participated in, helped with the development. Chris Brenton is now leading the operations for that. It's really awesome product, of course. Well, I'm kind of biased when I say that because I'm from the company. But anyway, you should check it out, securityweekly.com/ACM. Chris will be back this year, amongst others, giving interviews and technical segments on it, so you want to make sure that you check that out.
Hell yeah.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. That's right. Joff helped us too. I mean, you know.
I did. Come on, Paul. You didn't even give me credit.
I did at the end there. I was keeping you on edge there for a minute, Joff. You know.
Right on the edge. Right on the edge.
Right on the edge. So, where do you want to start? I ask this all the time. Where do we want to start? And do we have a good answer to that usually?
No.
No. Usually not. Okay. No. So, hey, Jason Wood's here with us. Hey, Jason Wood, how are you?
Jason Wood.
It's good to be back.
Good to have you, my friend. We're going to start off, Jason, thank you for choosing. We're going to start off with my story number one, which is why Hyatt is launching a public bug bounty program. Now, they had a small bug bounty program before. Now they've got a public one through HackerOne. They also state in the article that the Hyatt Bug Bounty Program prohibits the use of social engineering tactics. So social engineering could include the use of phishing emails to trick a user on clicking on something, as well as fraudulent voice phone calls. The program also does not include point-of-sale terminals at the hotel.
That's fair.
Okay. I mean, as far as bug bounty programs go, I mean, to answer the question...
For bug bounty, I would argue that's pretty standard.
Standard, right?
Yeah, probably.
And But so they're launching this because they got hacked, obviously. Right. Yes, Jeff?
Well, I am not familiar with Hyatt. Do they write their own stuff, or are they relying mostly on third-party applications and systems and whatnot? And can you launch a bug bounty program if you're the end user consumer and not the owner of a product?
You can. I mean, several bounties, from what I understand, are paid out because you did find a legitimate vulnerability. Mm-hmm. I've seen that in the past. I don't know how common it is today. One could assume, Jeff, and where I fall on that issue is that if it is your own software, and it's a great question, Jeff, that you should have a good SDLC and process for making sure that no known vulnerabilities are in your software. However, that's increasingly more difficult today, as I think John Strand was kind of half joking, maybe even not, that some companies just take a bunch of software from other places and open source and whatnot and cobble it together. And hey, look, I've got a startup, right? Yep. So 100% of your code is you're a product that you're offering that other people could buy, but it's largely based on other open source components. Of course, that depends on the license and such.
Yep.
But yeah.
But
go ahead, Jeff.
But more to the point, in Jeff's mind, how does this relate to PCI?
Well, the point of sale systems are out of scope for the bug bounty. I don't know how that, if that would tie.
It says point of sale terminals at the hotel. That's not the only point of sale that they might have.
Right.
But yeah.
And arguably, the point is if you think about the bug bounty, it's supposed to be accessible by everyone.
Everyone.
And social engineering, that's not necessarily accessible by everyone. There's some craft that goes into that. And also, I'd argue those payment terminals are, quote, behind the desk, and you're violating some privacy and trespassing and those types of things. Physical trespass to get access to those. So I can see why those are potentially off limits.
Those are probably better served for a penetration test where you're working with an organization. I would agree.
Larry, have you ever had the experience when you're checking out of a hotel and you've just taught a week at Sands, and the hotel employee, I can't even say this without laughing. The hotel employee says, "My computers are so slow. I don't understand why."
Oh, that happens not just on hotel. That happens everywhere.
Yeah. So yes, my computers are so slow. That happens everywhere. And my answer is, I completely understand.
Right.
I do technology for a living, and I leave it at that.
Totally get it.
But the big one is, you check out of hotels?
Oh wait.
Yeah, don't you do that?
I just leave. Today's checkout day. I just leave. I'm out.
Some hotels do varying levels of enforcement on that, I think. They like you to check out. But largely, I do the same thing, Larry.
Just leave. Yeah. What are they going to do? Throw me out?
Right.
Various levels of enforcement. What are they going to do? Throw me out?
Most of the time, they just have you leave your key in your room and
leave your key in the room. I have a box for those.
Well, that's what the sign says. Whether or not you
guys are you're totally right. Okay, sometimes I like to have the printed receipt. I'm weird and old-fashioned that way.
Okay, so. Yeah, there are those times, and they've largely stopped stuffing the receipt under your doors.
Strike the fashioned from that sentence, Jeff.
Yeah, Mr. 42, meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
What does the night clerk do these days when they don't run around and stuff the receipts under the door?
Right.
Yeah.
How does this relate back to Hyatt's bug bounty program? I don't know.
I think we digressed. It was all my fault.
We digress, but Hyatt is a hotel. They're not a technology company. Aren't most bug bounty programs put out by technology companies? It still just sounds kind of weird to me.
I wouldn't say that. I just hope.
Give another example of a company that's not a developer software IT company that has a bug bounty. There may be them out there. I'm just not familiar with it.
Watch your screen.
Watch my screen? Why? Oh, yeah, it's moving my mouse. Yes, it is. But I think that I don't know. I don't know what happened at Hyatt, right? And I don't. So therefore, I can't really comment as to whether a bug bounty, in my opinion, is appropriate for them or not. I mean, they did have a breach, but does that mean that their security program was weaker than everyone else's? I think it's purely speculative of us to say that, right? Of anyone that has a breach. I mean, everyone's breached, whether you know it or not, at some point.
Right? Don't we speculate during the news segment just about every week?
Yes.
I mean, isn't that kind of what the segment's about?
The feeling that I get, and it's nothing more, is that Hyatt, from everything I've read, right, Marriott wouldn't connect Hyatt into their network. Now that they've had a breach, and the information I've read about the breach, to me, they're not the highest on the maturity scale. In my assessment from everything I've read publicly, they've got some work to do. I don't necessarily believe that if they had a public bug bounty, that doing a public one is going to significantly increase their security maturity level. It sounds to me like the other things they should be doing about creating processes, understanding the assets that they have, and a lot of things we've talked about on recent shows would be better suited to raise their maturity level. And then maybe over time, a bug bounty. Sometimes one of the use cases, and I don't know if I'm doing this right, but one of the use cases for bug bounty is we just had
a lawsuit from the Federal Trade Commission, or we just had a breach, and therefore we're going to announce that we have a bug bounty program because public relations says that that's good for making people feel good about maybe coming and staying in our hotels, that their data and personal information, credit cards are secure. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it almost sounds like they're acknowledging that they don't have the resources to begin to do the maturing exercises that you're referring to, so they're just kind of throwing it out for help.
True.
Enough speculation on that.
That was a very speculative story.
Next story.
Consumers demand security from smart device makers. Now, here's one where I still just don't believe it, even though it comes from Microsoft, and the folks that I've been speaking with at Microsoft have been outstanding. Galen Hunt is one of my most favorite people, I think, that we've interviewed maybe ever, and also one of my most favorite people at Microsoft, who is behind Azure Sphere. High degree of confidence there. They tasked a partner basically to go survey 3,000 people in the U.S., UK, and Germany, something like that. And so 3,000 people is a lot to have some sense, and confidence in your numbers. So when they polled the people, they asked them, what factors play into your shopping decisions? I'm assuming when it comes to technology, 21% said security. 20% said value for the money. Again, my feeling is that I don't believe that that's true. I don't know. And then ease of use, a trusted brand, and ease of setup were after that. Also, 90% of the consumers think any piece of smart technology can be hacked, which I think is accurate. I'll buy that. But I don't buy that. Basically, what they're saying is that security and value for the money are equal factors.
I think maybe it's the first thing people think of because it's in their house and they get a little spooked by that aspect of it, but I'm not sure how much they take it into account to actually decide to buy something, particularly versus the price.
Yeah. And this could be selection bias, although 3,000 people across 3 countries is a lot, but it also depends on who they targeted in those countries. Also, I think, is it like question bias, like how they ask the question that could potentially lead people down answering it in a specific way? Or am I completely wrong? And consumers actually do care about security today. Are they creeped out by the Amazon devices? Have they seen enough in the regular mainstream news to go, yeah, you know what? I actually do take security into consideration. And if they did, what would be their research that they would do to validate that?
I don't know. It's a great question.
How do the consumers validate whether it's secure or not? That's what leads me to believe that there was some selection into question bias.
Yeah, I think
to do that. Now, I don't disagree with the motive. I think pushing people to Azure Sphere, and there was Blackberry also had an announcement about a secure IoT infrastructure and framework. And
Blackberry is in the fully owned subsidiary of RIM?
No, Blackberry.
Blackberry is
I'm reading it as the company that is Blackberry.
So not the phone device.
Yes, correct.
Okay, good, because I didn't want to have to smack you.
No. No, but we talked about this at Enterprise Security.
Yeah.
BlackBerry is very much making a play into security, and has for some time apparently, and we're just catching wind of this. And there's still a lot of unanswered questions about it, but the most recent thing is that they're sounded like they were in the press release that I read. So say I based it on that, right? Said that they were, because they bought Cylance too, and it was unclear whether it was some of Cylance's technology as well. But it was similar to Azure Sphere in my assessment. And so, but I like, my point is, thank you for derailing me, Larry, that my point is that I like these efforts, right? And if we have to use some survey data to help raise awareness and get, it's not just a consumer thing. You have to get the people who are making these IoT devices and the infrastructure that surrounds them, as Larry has presented on, right? It's not just the device, it's the firmware, it's the cloud, it's the mobile app, it's all the things that tie those pieces together. If we can create a more secure environment for people to do that, we're going to drive people who are creating those products to use and adopt those frameworks, and then consumers to, and as I said with the survey, to take that into account in their evaluation? And how do you arm the consumers with something that says this device is secure because it passed some compliance framework like PCI, and now therefore that's more secure? I don't know. I think I'm rambling. Am I rambling?
Yes.
Whatever.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, you're rambling, but you did say all the key words. I think you said cloud, IoT,
PCI.
I believe you said PCI in there somewhere.
He did,
Yes.
for sure.
He did.
Yeah,
I used all the
maybe-
big words like infrastructure and framework
You did.
and firmware.
Infrastructure, cloud, audit, security.
I like
Bingo!
this.
Bingo!
Joff is like playing the announcer to my delivery of content on the show. It's great.
It's Joff Don Pardo.
I like to help. I like to help when I can.
Any insights on this topic, Joff? Maybe, perhaps.
I don't know. I didn't. I kind of all just sort of went right by me.
He's like, I don't know. I was
what
playing
you said.
buzzword bingo
What are
when
we
you were
talking
talking.
I just heard all the buzzwords. That's all I got. Yeah, seriously, I got nothing.
Okay, well then, moving right along. Larry, do you have stories?
I do. One of the ones that I thought was really interesting came up at work this week. And it was one of those off sort of random type of things. City of DC is looking to do some updates to the metro. They are having various companies bid on new metro cars. The DC,
yep.
the subway. And a Chinese company has bid to build metro cars
in DC.
Think
That
about
doesn't
that.
surprise me. That doesn't
Think
surprise me.
about that. But now think about the capabilities and what things get talked about on the metro that probably shouldn't, that
Yep.
a Chinese company might like to be able to monitor on.
Nobody
uses,
talks on the DC Metro. You're
well,
crazy.
and not just
Everyone
talk,
just wears headphones. Come on.
and
Larry.
not just talk. What
Phone
devices do they
Yeah.
use?
That's probably more
Yeah.
likely.
Wi-Fi MAC addresses, even though they may be more randomized now. IMEI numbers for
Well, how about get a camera on there and start capturing screen information, because not everybody uses a privacy screen.
camera for screen information. Even if they're not recording audio, you could use that to do really bad lip sync of movies.
Track people.
Yeah, some of the Chinese facial recognition is amongst the best on the planet.
How do you know there aren't already cameras on the metro?
Yeah,
But
I look at it from the other perspective.
but then again,
Yeah.
there might have been some infiltration going on there. How do you know? Good point. But now that it's a heck of a lot more potentially blatant.
I just say then get up and compete, America, right? Have somebody else bid on it that does a good job and can actually get the job done, right? I mean, your concerns are all completely valid. Right?
Sure.
The security issues are real, absolutely.
The other bids
And-
came from North Korea, Russia, and Iran, ironically enough. Right? What's wrong with that? I mean,
Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Lee, did you have a comment? I thought I heard you chime in there.
Oh, I said the same thing you did. You were talking about what could we capture with a video, because not everybody uses privacy screens or other discretionary tactics when working on the metro.
Yeah. Now the discussion is for some of these types of things, specifically in this space of, while we can't restrict who bids, what country they're from, and what manufacturers they represent, should we take that into consideration as far as weighing their bid, and not just cost?
because it would be purely, as experts in speculation, it would
Yes.
be speculative on their part to assume that if the bid was to be won by a Chinese manufacturer, that they would in fact do something nefarious or malicious.
And knowing how that bidding system works, that typically it's the lowest,
The lowest bidder.
They may way undercut their costs
Sure.
to have that advantage of being able
Sure.
to perform those implants.
Right.
This is true. I mean, it does beg the question of what sort of oversight would be employed in executing such a contract,
Right.
to ensure that
Well,
certain
and that could very well
certain
offset the
things must be-
costs, right?
Right.
Joff brings up a great point. If say China does win, right? They're going to be paranoid because it's China, and they may have to spend more money potentially monitoring and or validating what's being implemented.
Right. And then
you're speculating again that they would be paranoid. Just saying.
That's true. That is pure speculation.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the reason why this came up is because that folks are paranoid and those types of things.
That is also speculation, Larry. You don't know for sure that they are.
I don't. The other speculation is maybe we should consider talking about supply chain attacks.
Yes.
We don't even need to attack the supply chain because the supply chain is the attack.
Well, the other thing to that, Larry, is no matter who wins the bid, what's the likelihood that some of the parts and or electronics are made in China? Again, pure speculation.
Right. And knowing that they may end up in the DC Metro.
Yeah, exactly.
I think my biggest worry in all of this is that we are attributing that China is going to do something bad, period. And I think the same can be said about the U.S., the same can be said about the U.K., the same can be about other companies. For example, due to the Snowden leak, sadly, we were caught red-handed modifying Cisco gear and transit being sent to other places because we were able to get to the chipping. It came out that AT&T, Verizon, and others actually went to the NSA and were like, hey, how can we help you guys get better data from our users? So I think the same thing we're saying about China can be said about us.
Sure.
And I think when we start seeing companies going like, no, we're not going to let this company bid for this project, we start getting into a slippery slope where the same rule can be applied to us when we try to bid in other places.
Agreed.
True.
I think that's a valid observation, and you also got to look at the operational technology that's been implemented. I think I tweeted just this week, for Christ's sake, that China's got a real deal happening in trains. They got a train that goes from Shanghai to Beijing in 4 hours at 350 kilometers an hour. The U.S. has nothing like that, and so that technological competitiveness in the bid might be a real deal, right? We shouldn't turn it down just purely because of information security concerns, but there should be oversight for sure, and any country should be entitled to oversight.
Do you remember when they rebuilt the section of the Bay Bridge with the Chinese steel that turned out to be substandard, and they had to do a whole lot of retrofitting to keep the thing from corroding and falling apart early?
I don't remember that, but I find that fascinating.
So my point is just if we can do some assurance of the quality of materials returned, that could help with we're not picking on anybody. Everybody's got to hit the bar.
Right.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that's interesting too about this article is it says that there is no U.S. company that makes subway cars.
Right.
So wherever these cars come from, they're coming from overseas.
Overseas in Canada.
And Canada.
Well, Canada is overseas.
No, I said overseas
Jeff?
In Canada. Jason, that was
Yeah,
that was a joke. But
At Jeff's expense.
Well, you
Jeff's
weren't
expense.
around earlier, Paul. I am going back to Atlantic Security Conference this year, so I will be traveling overseas to Canada again.
Canada. We love Canada, though. We do
love Canada.
All right, let's get back to breaches. Reddit alerts users to a possible account breach. Do you folks use Reddit?
I do use Reddit, but I don't have a login.
There you go.
I
You're
do
just
it
a
anonymously.
reader. You're just a lurker.
I'm just a troll. Just a lurker.
A troll? Well, a troll. You would.
Troll. You need to log in.
You need to log in. Yeah. You just posted someone else's account. Wait a second. Never mind. Moving right along.
Yes.
Anyway,
About Reddit.
about Reddit. There's a quote from Jared from Shape Security. It says, whenever there's a massive account takeover wave unrelated to a system compromise, it's likely due to credential stuffing.
Just like happened to Dunkin' Donuts. We talked about this not that long ago.
Correct. So likely not a problem with Reddit. However, and it's interesting about being a citizen, an internet citizen, right? Everyone should share in this responsibility that if you have account data, that if you lose it, that someone else might suffer. And I think it's interesting to consider legislation that might hold someone or an entity accountable for that. That was just kind of my takeaway from this. And Reddit is a very interesting concept. We don't often talk about their security practices must be good. We don't often talk about a Reddit breach.
Right.
Why this one caught my attention.
Yep.
Also, their commitment to keeping it open and free. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Don't get me wrong. People are going to use it for things that go against many people's values.
Think about like 4chan,
and laws. But they've pledged to be open. Whereas if you look at other larger social networks, in my opinion, they've gone the other way and become very restrictive. Our listeners have heard, me talk about, for example, Stogie Geeks. And if you have something like a Facebook page and you want to promote a post, even though you're a cigar podcast, you are associated with tobacco. Therefore, you are bad and you violate their standards. Yes, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Not that Facebook needs any
more shame.
Publicity.
No, they do a good enough job on their own to get the bad publicity.
That's true. Thank you for saying that word I couldn't say.
I like to help.
Enterprise iPhones will soon be able to use security dongles, because you needed another dongle in your life, Larry.
And my question is, why only enterprise iPhones?
That's a good question. I'm assuming that's not.
Is it just more of a function of the title of the story than?
Could be.
I think it's because it's all future. YubiKey hasn't decided what they're actually going to deliver yet. They're coming out with the device with a Lightning interface, and in fact, their applications on the iPhone don't support that yet.
Interesting. I did not know that. Also, it's a double-headed dongle in that it supports Lightning and USB-C. What is so funny? It's a dongle.
It's a double-headed dongle.
I'm sorry.
It's just a three-way joke.
Reminds me of Thanksgiving all over again.
Oh, yeah. Well, we sort of are a dysfunctional family. So
Now, Paul, what color do they come in?
That I am not sure. Not sure. iPhone users will hate this, is my estimation, that enterprises, first of all, don't want to manage mobile devices. And when they do, it oftentimes fails. Yet here we are. And the article states that what's really important here isn't just the news that enterprises can now look to deploy hardware-based security around their mobile systems, but also that this development reflects how important Apple's products are becoming to the enterprise. And while no one really likes using dongles, they do enhance Apple's already industry-leading reputation for security, making it possible to deploy these devices in even more mission-critical situations. I would also disagree about Apple's products becoming more of a staple in the enterprise. Maybe on the mobile phone side.
Yeah.
I'll give them that. On the mobile phone side, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think more in enterprise as well.
Carlos, I remember, this is like Trip Down Memory Lane episode, you evaluating some of the mobile device management solutions. In your estimation today, Carlos, is managed iPhones very much a part of enterprise security architecture?
I would say yes.
Okay.
In fact, let me see if I can share this or not. Let's just say that we're seeing more iPhones and based on when we get into MDM solutions. MDM solutions, just like backup systems and Active Directory, they're very big targets for us. So we typically go after those during red team engagements. And I can say that based on the reports and all of the after action meetings that we have, there's quite a large number of iPhones out there in the enterprise that are being managed by multiple MDM solutions.
Now, that may be the case, right? And I agree with Carlos and take his word for it. However, I think what we might be able to all agree upon is how Apple iPhone users will really hate using the dongle.
I think it's going to depend on why. I know, and I would suck if I had to use it to unlock my iPhone. I would be less than thrilled. But if that means I can now access applications that require that type of authentication that I couldn't get to from my iPhone before, bring it because now I can use them.
Yep. Or your or maybe even your iPad. I've heard multiple stories where folks, significant others, don't even use their computer anymore. They do all their things from their iPhone or their iPad. And quite honestly, I've done that not that long ago. Like just sitting on the sofa at the end of the night, and I want to unwind. I go get my laptop out of my office and put it on my lap. But no, I just sit there with my phone.
Sure.
And that gets me everything that I want to do. To relax.
You can look at memes,
porn,
equally as well on your phone as you can on your iPad or your laptop.
Exactly.
That's important.
It's a beautiful thing.
I still think you say that, Lee, though, but you haven't maybe run into the situation where you want to access something and your token's in a different room, on a different floor, in a different bag, at home and you're at work, or at home and you're in another country.
So, so there's actually, I have run into that situation, which is why I have from my access with my badge as well as a YubiKey, which is equivalent, because I can leave the YubiKey in the machine and I won't forget it. Whereas the badge, you're right. Am I going to have that with me? On the other hand, I worked with a program the other day. There were these very specific databases they have to use. They could only authenticate to it with their HSPD12 badge. We found a reader for the iPhone. They're incredibly happy because they can use this stuff now. Personally, I think it blows. I don't particularly like it, but happy users, that's worth a fortune.
Yeah, we have to be careful, though, that we're not saying that to make it usable means you need to have your second factor plugged into your laptop at all times.
Right.
Because from a physical security standpoint, Lee, that kind of defeats the purpose.
You mean that makes it a single factor authenticator? No.
You know, in the YubiKeys example, if you have fingers, yes.
But also it's so cute and compact. Right, I mean, you can just leave that sucker in there. You never see it.
Yeah, that's true. Also, you have to consider right now a lot of places actually don't have access to the data from their mobile devices. So just by the sheer fact that they're going to be able to use a dongle, it will mean that they're going to be able to then have access to that data, have access to those systems that before probably they couldn't get access to.
Right.
Yeah, and it does present an interesting scenario where in a laptop you could conceivably leave it plugged in and would take up a USB port in some capacity. On an iPhone, though, there's only one Lightning port. And I'm assuming it probably doesn't have a charging pass-through on it, so you're going to have to remove the dongle in order to charge your phone, therefore leaving it in at all times and then losing it for someone to pick up and go, oh, I can... I guess if I had their password, then I already have their second.
That would need a Lightning hub for our phone.
Yes, to be attached at all times.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I mean, they do have the USB-C on Android. I do have the USB-C version of the YubiKey, and you could conceivably make a hub, but that's not very practical to keep with you at all times.
The new iPad Pro
and then again, from your phone. How many times do you log into multiple systems to access data from your phone? At least some of the systems that I see protected, which are CRM and other stuff, it's kind of hard just to go through that screen on a mobile device on the phone itself. So, I don't know. I see it kind of like a niche kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree, Carlos. So, Larry, at Heathrow, London Heathrow Airport, flights were disrupted and all planes were grounded, according to this article, because of a drone.
A rumored drone. Same thing with Gatwick. They could never actually prove that there was a drone present.
Interesting.
That is my understanding.
It doesn't take just that to disrupt flights at Heathrow. I mean, shit.
I mean, a moth could fart at Heathrow.
I did it once with the paper airplane. Come on.
Yeah.
But this is actually becoming a thing that is surprising, and I suspect we will see more of this type of threat with actual drones that can be proven, and we'll get folks caught. The question becomes, what kind of defenses can we start putting around something like this?
Yeah, Jason, it's like our prison story. That sounded really bad.
Wait, what? Tell me more. This is relevant to my interests.
Well, Paul and I had talked about this on Pack Naked News a while back, where
We didn't actually go to prison together.
We did
just
not.
clarify for
No,
the record.
It wasn't together separately.
Prison story.
Jason and I have never been to prison together or independent, as far as I know. Jason, I don't know about you, but I have not.
Well, I visited somebody in prison,
sure.
so I guess I've been there.
I went to Alcatraz once.
Yep. Sorry.
On a
Continue,
tour.
Jason.
Yes.
But just so Paul and I talked, you and I had talked about this on Hack Naked News, where was it Max Vision, the guy who got busted for TJ Maxx and some other stuff, set up to do a drone smuggling ring to drop contraband off into the prison, and they got busted because somebody ratted them out. But you know, we were talking about, well, it's illegal to fly these things around prisons and stuff like that, but if you're smuggling into prison, do you really care? So yeah, I mean, how do you defend against something about this?
Well, and it's the other
Heathrow is there's not great defenses.
The other thing about Max Vision too, wasn't he also caught with like a credit card kind of scam that he was padding people's accounts for the dispensary in the prison? That's how he was getting by in prison. I mean, in one sense, like, you're not faulting him for trying to, and like, you got computer skills. You're like, hey, I can pad your account. Like, yeah, okay.
And I thought I didn't think it was Max Vision that got nailed for the TJX thing.
No, I don't think it was TJX. Max Vision was the lion worm, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
One of the things that you have to remember with drones is that you can actually, since I've built my own drones and I have been flying them, you have two different types of control planes when we're talking about drones. One is where you have your radio and you're controlling it. That is a channel that you can actually jam or affect. The other one's GPS, if the drone is on an automated mode and is flying via GPS. But so far, everything that I've seen is that people either simply just with a jaggy antenna with a very focused beam just go after those channels and obstruct the drone's operation. The drone just goes a bit crazy and crashes. And the other ones that they simply fire a net or fire a shotgun shell into the drone and destroy it are the kind of scenarios that I've seen so far when dealing with drones. A good example of how can they be weaponized in Iraq and Syria for a very long time, people have been strapping mortar rounds into those, small mortar rounds, and also grenades, and simply dropping them on targets. And we saw it in the attempt to kill the Venezuelan president.
I was going to say, was it Venezuela? Yeah, I remember that story. Yep.
Yeah, and now we have the one in Yemen where the Houthi rebels actually used it very effectively. The drone simply flew over the parade, and this happened today, and it actually exploded, and shrapnel was sent very effectively against the guy that was presenting in the parade and everybody around him, and actually killed him and injured several other people.
Wow. I didn't know. Did that happen today, Carlos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
We did an interview over a year ago, I believe, with a company called Spotter RF that Logan Harris, they're using RF technology, Larry, to detect incoming physical threats that could be people, cars, or drones, and they were able to tell the difference based on the RF pattern. I think it's somewhat similar to sonograms, sound waves, but using radio waves, and they could tell the difference between a bird and a drone because of its behavior was different.
Yep.
Episode 68 of Enterprise Security Weekly.
Johnny on the spot.
Johnny on the spot. Thank you, Johnny Blaze. So every time we cover these stories of airports or prisons having to defend against drones, I think of that, and I wish them the best because hopefully they've got some more business. And if they can legitimately help organizations protect against this threat, it's a good thing. So keeping the world safer. The promise in peril. Or 5G. I don't think we're going to see the security issues really bubble up and get a lot of attention until 5G comes like way down in price. I can't imagine that 5G is going to hit the market and be inexpensive. I think it's going to be similar to Wi-Fi and other things where it's going to be limited by cost and it's going to be limited by adoption by the various carriers.
Yep.
And the capabilities and capacity of the providers to handle all of that data. It's going to be a slow growth. I do think we will see the day where devices aren't necessarily going to require Wi-Fi, but I think that's a long way away to think about how the economics have to work out to come to that point. You folks agree? Disagree?
Also, you have to think about compatibility. Right now, it's a standard, but people are going to be building a bunch of pieces of gear, and we don't know how they're going to behave one with the other. I know that AT&T in the co-working area that I worked, they were doing some 5G experiments, and one of the things that we actually saw is that you really do have to saturate the area with a bunch of antennas just to get the coverage that probably with GSM and 4G, you actually needed only one. So adoption is only going to be kind of like the metropolitan areas where you can actually put enough antennas and access points in that area to cover it. So also battery life. People have been saying like, hey, Motorola has the first 5G phone, but when you look at it, it's a brick. And almost everything's actually battery to be able to run that new radio.
Yep.
So jumping on what Carlos said, earlier this week, I was reading an article where they were talking about the range of the 5G access points is something like 200 meters. And they were talking about deploying them in underneath, using manhole covers as a surface for them underneath, and relying on the fiber, which means metropolitan area. You get out in the sticks, you're not going to be able to do that many coverage. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're not going to get the density. Yeah.
Well, it's good. We don't have to worry about that for a while.
Next story.
I think we're going to see some pretty quick adoption of 5G, just because I've heard that some of the telcos and some of the cellular providers are already starting to do some test deployments.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be slow, though. Everything I read and have heard tonight. No, you think? Does it?
It's kind of an arms race, right?
Yeah, it's an arms race.
It's the first to support it, and then it's whoever can make money off of it, right? That's their motivation. They're not doing it for the greater good. They're doing it to make money, right?
Right, and by delivering higher bandwidth makes money.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to the investment versus how much money they're going to make.
Well, I don't know if it's higher bandwidth or the ability to, bring on that many more users and nobody notices any bandwidth issues.
Right.
Which I guess is technically bandwidth, but
it's going to be the same
more
thing.
users, more customers, more money. If we were going to speculate, I would simply ask if anyone believes that the technology in and of itself is going to introduce new types of vulnerabilities, or is it simply the vulnerabilities we already know about are just going to be that much more promiscuous because there's so many more devices?
My understanding is that the crypto in 5G has already been broken.
There you go.
So there's the answer to your question. Yes.
Sweet.
Party on, Wayne.
According to one source, web vulnerabilities are up and IoT flaws are down. Now, I wasn't able to read the full article because dark reading tells me I've hit my limit on articles, which is too bad because this kind of sounds like it was a sponsored post. In any case, there's a web security vendor that is saying that there are more web vulnerabilities than IoT vulnerabilities. Maybe we could find an IoT security vendor that says there's more IoT vulnerabilities than web security vulnerabilities.
What if it's a web security vulnerability in an IoT product,
device?
which is
like
double dipping?
Double? So the number of flaws found in WordPress and its associated plugins have tripled since 2017. While Internet of Things vulnerabilities have dropped significantly, according to data collected by Imperva. I guess it depends on how you count it.
Yeah, it all depends on how you skew the numbers for the statistics, right?
And it also depends on who's looking for these vulnerabilities in various places, what's our capability to detect vulnerabilities in WordPress, for example. WordPress, in my mind, is going to have, I mean, not just because it's WordPress, but a higher rate of vulnerabilities as they just presented at DerbyCon. It was DerbyCon, where the WordPress security team presented and said, we're actively looking for more vulnerabilities and plugins. We've got examples of more secure coding. We're trying to, get our arms around this problem. Say what you will about that effort. I applaud them for trying, certainly.
Yeah.
But that effort has led to more WordPress vulnerabilities. And WordPress has been around for a really long time, as we've discussed. It's built upon architectures that's not easy to change, like PHP and others. So it's prone to more vulnerabilities.
Sure.
Some of these IoT devices haven't been around. We haven't had a chance to maybe discover all the vulnerabilities that we could. Also, that being said, I think in terms of discovering the vulnerability, harder to find something that's in firmware and proprietary code than in open source code that is of like PHP.
And arguably on IoT, I think about IoT and I look at the stuff that's out there, and they're doing stuff implemented on the hardware side, lower profile, lower RAM, and they're using tried and true methodologies and sometimes the older stuff. I mean, when was the last time you saw Node.js on an IoT running on an IoT device?
Right. Well, the other thing too, Larry, that we experienced too when we were doing a lot more of this research was anyone can go in WordPress as an example because they used it here. Anyone can go download some WordPress code, download some plugin code. It's all open source, right?
Yep.
Most of it.
Yeah.
And then when you go say, well, I want to evaluate the security of this IoT device. Well, that device is $3,337.
That's an expensive.
That's a barrier to entry to evaluate the security. So anyway,
agreed.
I think that was something that needed to be pointed out in this article. That is not to say that web vulnerabilities are not important. I just think there's better ways to point that out. And you know me, I love to pick on surveys. It's nothing personal. It's just a hobby.
I mean, you have a survey. You have to pick on it. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's a survey.
I tell you what, those of us that have been doing Unix for a long time and now Linux, right? I miss a nit sometimes. I have to.
Sometimes I miss a nit always.
All the time.
Always. Every time I admin a box.
New systemd privilege escalation flaws are affecting most Linux distributions. 2 memory corruption, and the third is an out of bounds. The team that has not yet released full details on the exploit said they developed an exploit for 2 of the CVEs that obtains a root shell in 10 minutes and 70 minutes on AMD 64, 10 minutes on i386 on average. Interesting. I still miss it. In any case, that was really the only reason I added that, was just to say that.
So Lee,
I totally miss a nit. What the fuck? I mean, what is this fucking systemd bullshit?
It's like, because how was it? I don't understand how init was broken. And a lot of the new things, that newer distributions have replaced.
Broken.
It wasn't broken. So why are we fixing it if it's not broken?
And you know what? Init is shorter to type than system control.
It's true.
It's
true.
way easier.
Yes,
it's true.
Yeah, I feel the same way
with
the change from ifconfig to IP command.
Agree, Carlos. Why? What was wrong with ifconfig? Really?
And specifically the one that drives me nuts under Raspbian is naming the interface after the MAC address of the device. So you create a script that uses that, and then you put the SD card in another one, and it doesn't work anymore because the device name has changed because it's a different MAC address.
Yeah. What was wrong with ETH0?
Nothing.
I liked ETH0. It was short and it was easy to type.
BCM MAC address. What? No!
ENPS30. What the frick?
Exactly. Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. It's been said before, the enemy of good security is complexity. And you fucking add complexity and shit is going to go sideways. I'm just saying.
Don't get me started on Network Manager.
Yeah.
What the?
Network Manager died in a fire.
Hell is that thing?
I was in a good mood till we just had that discussion. Now I'm angry.
Although
Let's talk about a Chapo.
Although I have used NMCLI to good purpose for scripting purposes.
That's not what your wife told me.
Oh, I would believe it. Speaking of what your wife told me, how about Lee's story number 1?
Yeah, Lee's story number 1.
Do you guys remember Amazon Key, where you could have Amazon open up your house remotely and put your packages on site?
Uh-huh.
And
So
your car.
now they're partnering with LiftMaster Chamberlain, who have the MyQ system, where they'll open up your garage and put your package in there instead, which I thought is so much better, particularly as the camera that's inside your garage to see what malfeasance is up is an optional feature.
Yikes.
Nothing could go wrong, right?
Yeah, right.
So
the link I shared actually has the sign up with MyQ to get notified when we're doing this, just to really troll everybody.
So Lee, the question that I have is, and I haven't read the story. What exactly is MyQ? Do you know?
Oh, that's the automation they have for their garage door openers, so you can open it from your phone or from other devices in the house and integrate it.
So does it?
I have that.
So does it still use like the rolling code technology and those types of things,
Well,
or is it a new wireless protocol?
I can tell you how mine works, and I'm not sure what is it Chamberlain, Lee?
Yeah,
is
Chamberlain
it
is one of
garage
them,
door
yep.
maker. I'm not sure how MyQ works, but you can buy, like I have a SmartThings device.
Yep.
And you can buy something for your garage door, and it comes with two things. It comes with the wireless transmitter receiver, which is either Z-Wave or Zigbee, I don't remember which, that talks to your SmartThings device. That has a physical cable that connects into your garage door opener.
Just like the physical button
Just like
does
the
on
physical
inside of your-
button, exactly.
Yep.
And then on the garage door itself, there's what's called a tilt sensor. So it's like a sensor that like has a ball in it. And that when the garage door goes up, it goes in one direction and the other direction. So that sensor tells it whether the door is open or closed. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's how mine works. I don't know if Chamberlain has a similar thing.
And that
then
thing,
the interface is on your network, so it's So basically, you can reach it from the internet.
Right.
So it's connected up to your garage door with that protocol, and then on your wired network, it actually doesn't do 802.11. You actually have to give it a cable. But basically, yeah, then it knows where the door is going up and down. You can reach it from your phone from wherever the hell you are. And so they'll have an interface for the Amazon Key device to pair with it.
Yeah,
I just think how many people the garage is, if it's a standalone outside garage is one thing, but how many people they close their garage, but the door inside the garage is unlocked?
Oh, that's a lot of people. That's
Or how much valuable stuff have you got in your garage, even if you're only in there? I mean, you got some cool shit in the garage, most of us.
I ran into this problem, the exact opposite of this problem the other day. We have the wireless garage door openers, and the shop where we've recorded many old episodes from. Currently, the only entryway into the shop is through the roll-up garage door, which is on one of the wireless keypads. The actual door itself has shit piled in front of it and is locked from the inside. In fact, I don't even know where the keys are. The power went out, and I went to go into the shop. Fuck. Damn it, I can't get in the garage.
Don't you have a regular door on the other side?
Yeah, it's got like an arcade machine in front of the door.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You still got in, I'm sure, some way.
No,
the
I just...
window or whatever.
No,
There's a window in the back.
There is. And
that was locked.
It's actually, there's a window there, but it's been replaced with a metal sheet because that's where the vent for the heater goes. Out the window. Through the metal sheet. So the window's effectively a metal sheet. But that was my... No, I just left the stuff on the ground outside. It was an extension cord that I had to put away. I put it away the next morning when the power was on.
Get the garage door opener with the battery backup.
Yeah.
Geek fail.
Yep. If I really needed to have gotten in, I would have gotten in. But.
Right. In any case,
our new garage doors are so heavy, we're not sure we could actually open them if we released the cable. Even though they got the springs and stuff, they're still pretty damn heavy. So
that reminds me of an attack where the attackers would slide something above or below the door and pull the safety chain to enable the manual open.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
Next
must
story.
be some other stories here. Yeah.
Your story number 12, Paul, seems fascinating to me.
Yeah. So El Chapo was the Mexican drug kingpin.
Yep.
There's a great documentary series too. It's called America's Book of Secrets. kind of a sensationalized title. They say, what if there was a book with all of the secrets in it, right? Excuse me, if you glance over that part, I don't know if it's History Channel, it's on Hulu. In any case, they go through different topics and talk about conspiracy theories and actually present some pretty compelling evidence, in my opinion. They did one on drugs in general and talked a lot about the Mexican cartels and some of the conspiracy theories about what was the gun thing, what was it? It was when Obama was in office and we gave guns to the Mexicans. What was that called? Fast and Furious? Was it Fast? Was it Fast and Furious?
That's what it was.
It was some kind of fuck up.
Yeah,
it was some massive. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. They talk about that. So in any case, they're talking about El Chapo and how he's being prosecuted. But the thing that gave them evidence was a key witness who was his IT admin, and Rodriguez was the admin. They say in 2013 he suffered a nervous breakdown. They said the stress was probably due to the fact he was working undercover for the feds while in charge of the communications network of an extremely violent criminal enterprise. Rodriguez then left the cartel, unclear as to what circumstances or if the feds helped. But then they had grown suspicious of their IT guy, flipped, and various enforcers turned up looking for Rodriguez. So they were coming after him. Rodriguez is still expected to appear as a witness in some point in the trial as the sysadmin who took down a drug lord. My conspiracy theory on that is, did the feds have something on him and he was basically forced to turn? Otherwise, why would you put yourself at risk? Again,
no kidding, right?
The title of this episode, pure speculation.
My pure speculation is that, they had something on him. He was the IT guy for El Chapo.
Well, but they could have had something else on him. You never know.
Yeah. What didn't they have on him?
I do find interesting all of the stuff that have been coming out of the trial itself. For example, one of the things that El Chapo did was that he actually installed commercial malware on his wife's phone so he can track what his wife was actually doing. So what the FBI did is they went to the malware company or the monitoring software company, and they asked him, hey, we want access to this specific phone. They got access and they were able to collect all of the texts between El Chapo and his wife. And it turned out that also he bought licenses to monitor his mistresses. So during trial, it also came out to light all of the different texts that he was sending to his wife, their mistresses, and everybody else through this company. Then the IT guy actually provided the keys for their VoIP system, so they were able to then track all of their VoIP calls. And what they did is, since it seems that he was under quite a bit of surveillance by the cartel itself, they didn't trust him. So he says, let's do an upgrade. Let's move all of our servers from Canada to Norway. As they were moving the servers, he was able to extract the keys and provide those to the FBI.
Interesting. It's a fascinating story.
I have to say, because I'm the ex-Crippy, if he gave him copies of the keys, they didn't technically crack anything. They just simply decrypted the data.
That's true. Absolutely. Yep. It's all about who has the keys to the kingdom, or the drug kingdom, I guess, in this
Which
case.
is typically how crypto is broken.
It's true.
Anyway.
It's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Speaking of which, did you want to mention you did have a sort of tangential NSA story in there?
I did.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
9.
Kaspersky.
Oh yeah, I just read the headline on this one. That it was in the article titles it as it was an ironic turn that Kaspersky Labs has helped the NSA to catch an alleged data thief. Probably a good segue from what we were just talking about, right? Another software company helping federal agency investigate criminals.
Well, arguably one that has been thrown under the bus for being
like a lot
for being politically motivated for Putin,
right?
Given that they're a Russian company. Yikes.
Well, and I glanced through the article, and if I read it correctly, all of this happened with the guy from NSA. I think he was a contractor who isn't a contractor at NSA these days.
Well, of course not,
that was just basically bringing home all sorts of secret data and hoarding it. Is it that guy? I think it was that guy. Mm-hmm. And when he went to try to sell it, he started doing all sorts of weird tweets. And he tweeted some of the people at Kaspersky Labs, and Kaspersky said, "Well, that's kind of weird." And he contacted the NSA and said something weird's happening. So it wasn't, it wasn't necessarily a technical thing. It was more of an OPSEC type of thing.
Yep. Anyway, that's all the stories I had.
That's all she wrote.
Any other stories? Joff's calling it.
Yeah, I'd say
I'm calling it. That's all she wrote. I think I should probably take us out.
The only other one was that I had was a story for Joff. Was the Australian early warning system?
Oh, that was a classic, right?
Yeah, Joff, tell us all about our resident Australian expert, cultural ambassador,
cultural attaché
to Australia.
Cultural fucking attaché. Yeah, I fuck, I don't remember the story now, but New South Wales fucked up.
They done fucked up.
Like they always do. Come on.
I'm dying over here.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Where was the story? Larry, I didn't see the story. Where is the story?
Oh, come on. So the...
it's number one under Larry's story.
Yes. You're supposed to be an expert in all things Australia.
So to quote the article, Australian...
I've got it. Okay. Early warning system fuck up. That was it. They got scary texts, emails, and phone calls. This sounds like Hawaii. It really does.
It does.
From a trusted emergency warning service late last week after a hacker, quote, broke into its systems and used it to send fake messages. Classic fuck up. Okay?
Yep. EWM hack privacy alert.
Yeah.
EWM has been hacked.
Has been hacked. Your personal data is stored with us is not safe. We're trying to fix the security issues. Please contact blah, 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 blah. Anyway, apparently they moved quickly to fix the issue. And I quote from the article, "Lucky Aussies are a savvy bunch." Comments on the Facebook post came mostly from people who said they'd received the message and deleted it as suspicious. Although a handful said they had clicked on the link and were now worried. Oh, fished. Anyway.
Those Aussies are a savvy bunch.
Savvy bunch, In other words, they're like, fuck it. I'm drinking my beer and I give Anyway.
So what beer exactly are they drinking, Joff?
They're
clearly
probably
not Foster's. Clearly not Foster's.
Not some Foster's. They're probably drinking some VB or some 4X, maybe even some Cooper's Pale. And they said, fuck this shit. And I'm going back to my ordinary life.
And Joff, thank you for those valuable insights into Australian culture.
I try to help.
Made your people proud.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like when somebody's not speculating, Paul.
That's right. Yes. Speaks with authority on all things Australian security news-related items.
Yeah, when it comes to Australia, the one thing you can guarantee is
the shrimp will be on the Barbie.
We're a very pragmatic bunch of people. And fuck everybody if they don't like it. That's the way we roll.
They can't put shrimp on the Barbie because they have fucking prawns there.
Yeah, we have prawns. It's prawns on the Barbie, not shrimp. Prawns.
And because they're Australia, prawns make shrimp look puny because they're shrimpy.
Yeah, they're very large. Prawns are large.
Okay, who's taking us out?
Joff.
Me.
Joff.
Okay, so having done the Australian story, over and out.